Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio, and as I record this, we are about 2 and a bit weeks away from the release of the new set, Darkness Ablaze. Pre-releases are going to be starting rather soon indeed, so it's probably about time that we started counting down the best new decks from Darkness Ablaze. I am not talking old decks with new tricks. I am talking full-on, proper job, brand new decks that were not seen before this set. And we might as well do a proper 1 to 5 listing, but there's actually 6 good new decks that come out of this set. So let's start off with number 6, or an honourable mention, phrase it how you will, for Mad Party. Now, Mad Party really is all built around Poltergeist and friends. Poltergeist has the ability that lets you discard a card or a Pokemon with Mad Party from your hand and then draw 2 cards. And it's got the attack, Mad Party, that does 20 damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile with the Mad Party attack. And this is the new version of Night March, which was, if not the, certainly one of the best decks in the format. And Lost Zone, which is, or Lost March, which was just not a particularly good deck. The thing is, this does have a built-in draw engine, and there are 4 Mad Party members, so this has definitely got a chance. I will say that I've done videos including winning lists of all of the decks I'm going to talk about today. I will include links to those videos in the description, so if you want a deck list to get yourself started, it's right there waiting for you. Now, in terms of the other Mad Party members, we've got Galarian Mr. Rhyme, but it's a stage 1, so we're never going to attack with it. Although the good news is you also can't start with it, so there's a bonus. And Decadueye, which you can start with, but Decadueye attacks for a Psychic double colourless, so you're never going to attack with it. And Bunnelby that's got the same attack for 2 colourless energy. Now remember that Bunnelby can use twin energy, but cannot use triple acceleration because it's not evolved, so be careful when you're doing that. But what you essentially do is just slam all your Mad Party Pokemon in the discard pile as fast as you can, start hitting for good damage, and have a bit of a built-in draw engine with Poltergeist at the same time. Make no mistake about it, this is a very, very good non-GX deck. So in at number 5, we've got Salamance. Salamance V and Salamance V Max, one of the rare examples of a Pokemon where we actually like it for both the V and the V Max, and we're not really choosing between them. Now, Salamance V for free energy lets you do 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, just spreads 30 to absolutely everything. Now remember that the free energy does mean you can use Welder and attach for turn, which is, it's a very good thing, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen. It makes life a lot easier. And then you go up into the V Max, and the V Max will, for 1 energy, do 40 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Now this is really important because 70 HP Pokemon, you will need to be able to, well, hit them in this way. And we've seen different ways of playing this. Builds that I really like play Porygon Z, which allows you to attach as much special energy during your turn as you like, which is pretty good for the whole speed angle. I've seen it played with Galarian Zigzagoon, because that drops damage counters when you play it from your hand to the bench, so that just builds up damage in that regard. Porygon Z is the most common build I've seen so far, and it's certainly my favourite build of them, but it doesn't have to be played with Porygon Z, though I think initially that might be the best way to do so. Then again, there's always that Welder build I mentioned. All I'm saying is that this is a very strong deck moving forward, and maybe too many people are going to start playing Mew and protecting their bench, and that's going to ruin it. But the fact of the matter is, if your opponent goes second and starts hitting 30 to all of your Pokemon from their first turn, which is absolutely possible, that puts you on a clock, and if you don't get something rolling quickly, you lose quickly. In at number 4, we've got Decadueye. Decadueye was amazing when it was a GX. It's not been good since. It's about to get back to being awesome. Now, what we love about Decadueye is the ability that makes it immune to, damage from your opponent's Pokemon GX and Pokemon V. And yes, that does include VMAXs, and it does include tag teams. It doesn't prevent all effects of attacks, but it does prevent all damage. This is a good thing. And essentially, this is good in the way that the old Hooper was good. In the way that before that, the old Sigilif was good. It's a card that exists to basically ruin your opponent's day. It is there to basically go, look, if you're not playing any non-GX, non-V Pokemon, I am going to have a very easy win here. And even if your opponent is playing a few others, are they playing enough to take down Decadueye after Decadueye after Decadueye? The attack is fine. It's not particularly good. You do 90 to the active and 20 to two of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and that will build up quite quickly. But Decadueye is not really for that. The goal of Decadueye isn't really to overwhelm with phenomenal attacks. The goal of Decadueye is to lock your opponent out of the game. Now, I have shown you a couple different winning decks along the lines of Decadueye. The one I've shown you, and I will link both of these in the description, is just playing it as essentially a mono deck. Now, it does play the Grovyle from Lost Thunder for a bit of consistency, but that will be rotating out. And it plays Pheromosa and Buzzwole to give you just a big attacker, and remember, it's got a GX attack that does 50 damage and takes an extra prize if it takes a KO. And it's got an early attack that does 30 to the active, 30 to one of your opponent's bench. That's pretty good. And bearing in mind, if you're not giving up any prizes for the rest of the game, it really doesn't matter if you give up 3 prizes on one of these in the early game, because, well, it just makes absolutely no difference. Oh, they've taken 3 prizes, but they're still not taking any more. So who really cares, ladies and gentlemen? Who really cares? The other list I've shown is with the new Greedent, and the new Greedent's got the attack very much like the old Mean Chow. It does 100 damage, and you put this and all cards attached to it into your hand. And then, of course, when you put it into your hand, you promote Decadueye so that there's nothing in the active. And round we go, ladies and gentlemen. Round and round we go. In at number 3, we've got Scorch. And as a side note from me here, these top 3 are arguably the 3 best decks right now. There is a strong argument that these 3 will be the number 1, 2, and 3 deck when this comes out and the rotation hits. Not guaranteed, but it is likely that if they're not the top 3, they're kind of 3 of the top 5. These are going to really impact the format. Now, Scorch VMAX, we don't really care about the V. It really is all about the VMAX. And essentially what it does is, for 2 energy, you do 40 damage base, plus 40 damage for each energy attached to Scorch. And then when you attack, you attach an energy from your discard to Scorch. And essentially, this is the deck. Like, obviously, it's a fire deck, so you're using Welder to pile energy on, but you attach and you Welder, and there's free energy on. And the free energy alone is going to do 160 damage. 3 40s plus a 40 base is 160. But then you attach an energy, so then there's 4 energy, 5 times 40. But then you Welder, and there's 7 energy, 8 times 40. And this just builds up so quickly. If we take a look at the VMAXs which have been doing well up to now, stuff like Dragapult, for instance, or there's been a little bit of love going around for Inteleon. Certainly there's been a few players having good runs in the Players' Cup with Inteleon. These are not one-hit KO Pokemon. The Salamance I showed you earlier caps out at 240. It is not a one-hit KO Pokemon a lot of the time. Scorch bucks the trend with VMAXs by being a one-hit KO Pokemon. That's kind of crazy, but kind of awesome. Put very simply, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good deck. And there's nothing really else about it. You don't see these coming around very often with extra techs. I mean, the lists that I've seen generally play stuff like Decadueye and Jirachi, but those exist purely in terms of adding consistency. It is just Welder, pile energy on center Scorch, smash. And I tell you what, that's good enough to make it one of the very best decks in the game. Now, coming in at number 2, we've got Eternitus, and I know that not everyone is going to agree with this at number 2. There are going to be a bunch of people that want to put this at number 1. It is hard for me to argue, ladies and gentlemen. It is hard for me to argue. However, I do think it is at number 2. Now, what is really cool here, the official reveal of Eternitus as a card actually went to the lovely Joe over at Cerebi.net, who you know is one of our very favourites on this channel. Now, it's got an ability that says if all your Pokemon in play are Darkness type, you can have up to 8 Pokemon on your bench, but you cannot have non-Darkness Pokemon in play. If you put a non-Darkness Pokemon in play, the ability stops and you're down to 5 bench spaces. It's kind of like having a built-in Skyfield. It's then got an attack which does 30 damage for each of your Darkness Pokemon in play. So, very simply here, you want 8 bench Darkness Pokemon, 9 Darkness Pokemon in total, 9 times 3, 270, boom! There you go. That is an awful lot of damage very, very quickly. Again, you're not actually hitting up to one-hit KO territory on other VMAXs, but you are in a great position here in terms of having giant HP. It is the joint highest HP of any Pokemon we've seen, and 2 energy means that you can just manually attach. And like Center Scorch before it, it is very much an Eternitus deck. Now, you might see some players playing Weavile GX to move energy around. They're probably going to play the new Hooper that does 90 for a single energy, as long as it became active on this turn. They're probably going to play Galarian Zigzagoon, and they're going to play that new Crobat, which is literally just Shaman, but you can only use one of the abilities during your turn. But these are all Darkness things. And incidentally, if Eternitus didn't have Shaman, or Crobat, then I wouldn't think it was anywhere near as good. But it does. So as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be amazing. But the best deck is Vikavolt. And I know Vikavolt's the best deck because Japan went and had a tournament, and they had a tournament with Darkness Ablaze legal, and the winning deck was Vikavolt. And the runner-up deck was Vikavolt. There were 2 Vikavolts in top 16. They both made it into the final. Vikavolt is the new Seismitoad. Vikavolt for 2 energy does 50 damage and stops your opponent playing item cards during their next turn. But with Thunder Mountain that is rotating and Tapu Koko that isn't, it really isn't that difficult to go second, get item lock, and literally leave your opponent item locked for the entirety of the game. That's going to hurt. Now, there is an attack that does 190 and discards 2 energy, cool, etc. But really here, what you're going for is just item lock your opponent, keep it on for the game, and then your opponent isn't able to use stuff like Quick Ball to search out their Pokemon. They're not able to use stuff like Pokegear to search out their supporter cards or Palpad to recover them. And sure, maybe they randomly draw into everything they need, but that's not going to happen very often. And once again, this is very much a Vikavolt deck. You do see Decadueye and Jirachi making their way into lists. We do see players tending to play Absol, which increases the retreat cost of your opponent's active basic Pokemon. Make it more likely they're going to be stuck in the active. And we do actually see players playing a bit of Raichu and Alolan Raichu, because it's got a good GX attack which automatically paralyzes. Which is actually genuinely another attacker. But outside of that, it is a full-bore Vikavolt deck, and as far as I'm concerned, this is the best deck coming out of Darkness Ablaze. And that doesn't mean I'm downplaying Eternitus or Center Scorch. It is to say, if we look at everything that's been happening, this is the number 1 deck, and it really is the number 1 deck. At least as far as I'm concerned and as far as this tournament in Japan showed. But if you've got a different opinion, if you think another deck is going to end up becoming better, hey, Let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.